Good afternoon. I hope everyone is doing great. My name is Moazli Mayem. I'm the very proud Lynn Pippinger Dean of the University of South Florida Muma College of Business. And let me tell you, I am just so thrilled to have you with us today. This is I think, the third conversation with the CEO we're doing virtually, but I really, really hope this will be the last one. Let me tell you, today is a very special day for us. This is a very special conversation with the CEO. Why? Because we have an incredible guest. Let me tell you, we have to behave today because this person, and you will see in a while, she's the boss of my boss, and I will explain that. How is that? But today's our guest has had an incredible career, very rich background, has been named very recently as the new president of Duke Energy in Florida. And she's no stranger to the energy production. She started working for this company 34 years ago. She is so inspiring to all of us. Very recently named as a trustee of the Board of Trustees of the University of South Florida. And I cannot be happier, more excited, and more honored to welcome today with us Ms. Melissa Seixas to us today. Melissa, thank you so much for joining us. We're so happy to have you. And I ask everyone to behave because I explained to them, you're the boss of my boss, so we're going to have fun today, okay? But in all seriousness, Melissa, thank you for taking the time. We know with your new role, you must be just very, very busy, but yet you did not hesitate 1 second when we asked you to talk to our friends, our alums, about your lessons learned, your journeys, some of the advice, because I know many of the audience, they want to be like Melissa one day. So welcome, Melissa, and we're just delighted to have you.
Well, thank you. Thank you. And I love your enthusiasm. I'm really looking forward to this. This is a thrill to be able to join everyone today. So I couldn't think of a better place to be.
Thank you, Melissa. And let me remind all our wonderful audience, and we have more than 200 following us today, that they can tweet their question at USF CEO Convo, and we promise to get as many of these questions as we can. So let's start from the beginning, Melissa, and tell us a little bit about your background. Where did you grow up, and how did you end up in such an important position in a very important industry for all of us? Were there some people who inspired you all the way? So we'd love for our audience to know you a little bit better, Melissa.
Oh, well, thank you. Well, first, I hope everyone notices I have my green and gold on. Yes. And my alumni pin as well. Very, very proud to be a USF Bull. Actually have my Tervis tumbler doesn't go far from me day to day. So
that's great.
I hope I walk the talk when it comes to the University of South Florida. So a little bit about me. I'll give a quick version. I was originally from Baltimore, Maryland. My family moved here to the Tampa Bay area in 1977. And I probably don't have to tell you all, St. Petersburg is a very different place than it was in 1977. But my dad was an attorney and an Army colonel, and he retired and wanted to be near the VA hospital and near the Air Force Base because of the commissary. My mom was born in Brazil, came here to the United States when she was 19, didn't speak the language. She always told me that she learned how to speak English by watching Bonanza, the TV show, and listening to music. And so two very different parents as far as background. So I really grew up recognizing very early on that people did not all share the same background. And I think that that's really where my personal commitment to diversity and inclusion really where that was born. because it was very evident to me as a young child, especially for my mother, because I think she tried very hard to make sure that I was very American. And in that respect, she very proud of her Brazilian heritage, but also wanted to make sure that she fit in, that I fit in. But long story short, so went to middle school, elementary, middle school, high school, college here. So this is home. Florida is home, Pinellas County. And I had really been interested in becoming an engineer at an early age. I loved to draw. But I also think because my father, just given his background, he really fueled this interest in history. So I went into kind of my young adulthood thinking I wanted to be an engineer. And somehow I ended up with a master's degree in American history. So, go figure. But what I will share with you all, and what I share with others when I have the opportunity, I started part-time in the drafting department at Florida Power Corporation, drawing the poles and wires, literally, that serve our customers. And there is no better way to learn the business than to be that immersed, working with engineers and working with field personnel and others who create this grid and maintain this grid that fuels and powers our lives every day. So taking that background and coupling that with a liberal arts background and all the skills and analytical thinking that you develop in that kind of program, and kind of marrying those together really has served me every single day in this industry, because it has allowed me to kind of take this very technical operational world that we live in the electric industry, and help translate that in a way externally as we talk with and engage with our customers and our public officials and other leaders. And that has really just been of the greatest benefit. It just gave me the best foundation that I probably could have started with. And while I started in operations, I went over to the customer service part of the world, consumer affairs, working with the Florida Public Service Commission, and came back into operations for a bit, but had been in government community relations for probably about the, past 20 years or so. And so I do joke, but I'm probably pretty sure that I'm the company's first state president with a degree in American history and not engineering, law, or finance. So.
Thank you, Melissa, and thank you so much for acknowledging the role of USF. We'd like always to take credit, so that's great. And this is you just gave us the very first lessons learned for all our participants. So if you want to be a CEO serving 2 million customers and you don't have a degree from USF, go for it, because that's the secret. But Melissa, were there a person or group of people who really inspired you, mentored you throughout this, and to be where you are now at the driving seat?
I give full credit to the dozens and dozens, probably hundreds of colleagues, really, that I've worked with over the years. When I came in for the first few years, people called me kid. Because I was so young, I think, and eventually became ma'am, and it had nothing to do with the title. It was all age. But when you come into a company with people who have all this institutional knowledge and they are so willing to share it, it is you just can't put a price tag on that. So these are the people that became my mentors day to day, and continue to do so. So whether it's those that are on my direct team or employees that are and leaders that are in other parts of the company, I really feel like I'm surrounded by greatness and commitment and enthusiasm for the privilege that we have as a power provider we provide a critical service and we make the difference in people's lives every single minute of the day. And it's a privilege. And so those are really the people that I continue to work with, and I've been fortunate to learn from. And I also have had some great managers and leaders who really have shown the way to be that type of leader. And even those that I hadn't directly worked with, but someone I'll mention, Andy Hines, who was our president and CEO for Florida Power Corporation for many years, just passed away in February. We lost him at the age of 98. But this was a true leader in every sense, from his internal commitment to employees to his commitment to our customers and communities. He really helped shape so much of what happened in St. Petersburg and the Tampa Bay area from a growth standpoint. So even having that exposure to kind of the legacy leaders of the company has influenced me.
Thank you, Melissa. Let's fast forward a little bit. February, you are named to the president of Duke Energy in Florida, and what an amazing recognition! Congratulations. We're really proud of you, Melissa.
Thank you.
And would love to hear from you a little bit of how did you live through the very first few weeks? You're a new position, as high as it could get in the state of Florida. How did you develop your priorities? How did you spend your first few weeks in this new job?
A little bit in shock. A little bit. Listen, like most companies, large or small, it's really the team you have around you. So when this transition occurred, I'm building on the momentum that we already had going in Florida. And that credit really goes in large part to the team that surrounds me. But also just, we have 4,000 or so employees in the state of Florida. And I count all of them in helping me to succeed, because this is a team sport by all measure. And so the first few weeks, as I said, there are some areas where I am on a very steep learning curve, a little more than in other areas. So really focusing on those areas, spending a lot of time in the rates and regulatory group, finance side, and just making those connections with employees and groups across the board. But it's really the foundation. I'm so fortunate to step into this role at a time when the company here in Florida is very well positioned from a growth standpoint, and just a lot of clarity around what our priorities are. So my job is to continue working closely with the team and leading that effort so we can deliver to our customers what we know is a priority for them.
That's a great listen. Listening to you, Melissa, the one word that you keep repeating is team, and that's really a sign of a great leadership. For all our friends listening to us, Melissa, many of them are starting, some of them are mid-career, some of them are really close. What kind of advice you give them to be like Melissa one day, to position themselves for this wonderful recognition and promotion? What are the key things that you think made a difference for you?
Well, I certainly wish that I were able to give some beautiful, eloquent roadmap to answer that question. But, when I think back on this, I think regardless of the job that you're in, that you excel at it.
Yeah.
When I was 19 years old, when I was 30 years old, working for the company, I really did not set my sights on being the president one day. But I was fortunate enough to have a diverse set of experiences where I learned different parts of the business. And what I really tried to do was excel in the job that I had. And I think also using that opportunity to establish a reputation that you are a dependable colleague, that you are committed to your customers, whether those customers are internal or external. And I think it is about demonstrating that you are dependable. And, because as I said, there's not much that happens within this particular industry, that it's not a one-person show. But I think doing the job that you do well. But I also think, and I had a conversation with an employee this morning about this, a team member, and that is being an active agent in your own development. And if there's an area that you're interested in learning, to talk to your manager, talk to your supervisor, talk to those colleagues. And it doesn't have to be anything formal. It can be informal, and just soak up everything. And I would also say too, is never think that you've got it down or that you don't have anything else to learn. Because I can tell you, after 34 years, I am stretching my mind in all kinds of ways that I had not imagined, even after 3 decades with the company.
That's a great, what a great lessons. Excel in everything you do. And the recognition will come and will be later. I cannot help it, Melissa, but ask you a little bit of a technical questions. A few weeks ago, we all watched and read about the devastation in Houston, Texas, and how the storm really damaged the power grid. Many of us don't even understand what is a power grid. What can you tell us, and how Duke Energy, for example, is making sure that here in our region we do not go through the same really horrible experience that our friends, families, and citizens of that area in Houston went through?
Yeah, I think all of us watched what was happening there and really felt for the citizens of Texas. So for Duke Energy Florida, and really for Duke Energy overall, we have a very detailed plan that we manage, how we manage the power grid in the most extreme of weather conditions, whether it's extreme cold, which doesn't happen too often, but Floridians are not used to, those cold temperatures. And so when it's cold, they want to use their heaters. But of course, also extreme heat, which is what we're probably more used to. And so planning for those extreme weather events is something we do all year long. What happened in Texas was more of a generation issue, generating electricity. And quite often for us here in Florida, extreme weather is the results and impact kind of the poles and wires part of the business, right? Wind, water from hurricanes or tropical storms. The other piece is that Duke Energy is part of a national power grid that allows us to import, export power in and out of the state as needed. So again, it really goes back to planning, and it also goes back to making investments in our grid that will allow us to withstand some of those extreme weather events. And an example that I would give you specifically about that is around a program we call the Storm Protection Plan. And this is really about modernizing our grid. And that is one of our priorities. And I'll go back in a moment and talk a little more clearly about what our priorities are. But in this particular case, talking about Texas, I think it really is the right moment for me to bring up just what the Storm Protection Plan means for the state of Florida and for our customers. But this is ensuring that we have a reliable, secure, and safe grid. And so that means everything from flood mitigation at substations. It means hardening branch lines and main feeder lines, transmission. replacing wood poles with different type of poles that have a higher wind resistance. And we are doing this across the state. In some areas, it will mean that we are converting overhead to underground. And it also includes a responsible vegetation management program as well, because the reality is trees and overhead lines do not make a great match.
That's so true. Thank you for this lessons, Melissa. A related point, and this is somehow could appear a sore point for the industry or point of criticism for the industry at large, that coal-fired power plants are sometimes referred to as one of the biggest polluter of our environment. And I know Duke Energy is really trying to clean up the industry. Can you share with us a little bit your thoughts on this topic, and what are you doing as a company to address these criticisms?
Sure. So I think this is a really good opportunity for me to share what our priorities are, talking about working from the foundation that's been set by the company over the last few years. Our priorities are our customers' priorities. And so first and foremost, generating greener energy. And we are really committed to doing that through renewables and solar. We already have about 900 megawatts on our system. We have just committed to and had a program approved by the Florida Public Service Commission. It's called Clean Energy Connection. But it's really our long-term commitment over at least the next 3 years to install another 750 megawatts, about 10 solar sites across the state of Florida. So renewables, generating cleaner energy, absolutely. Also part of that is we also filed in partnership with consumer groups and business groups, we created and developed an agreement that we have filed with the Florida Public Service Commission that will be hopefully approved in the next couple months. But part of that also includes accelerating retirement of our last 2 coal units. And because that's our commitment, right? We want to get to green just like our customers do. The pace, I think, and the timing somewhat is a little different because we have to make sure that we're able to provide service the moment the customer turns on the lights. But center to everything that we're doing around generating a cleaner energy future is around solar. So we will retire those last 2 units. We accelerated it by about 8 years.
So nice and so refreshing. Liz, I'm looking here at some of the chats, and I cannot tell you how much your fellow USF Bulls are proud of you. Your colleagues are proud of you. Here Christina Aspau said, "Congratulations on your well-deserved promotion, Melissa. Our community is better because you are part of it." So I think says it all. Sharon Arroyo said, "So proud of my colleague, my Duke Energy boss and fellow Bull, Melissa Seixas." So you see, you're getting there. I don't know why my team, they never tell me good stuff like this. So, but this is wonderful, and this speaks really thousands of words for how people appreciate you, not as just a great boss, great colleague, but also as a wonderful member of this community.
And I'll say on that point, if I may, 3 of the 4 direct reports that I have, leaders, are all University of South Florida graduates.
All right, go Bulls. I love that. That's great. That's excellent. Melissa, you said something that really resonated so well with me, and I am also so passionate about it, is diversity, equity, inclusion in the workplace. And something that we are very proud of at the MoMA College of Business. We are teaming up with Jabil and with the Tampa Bay Lightning to offer for free a program that usually costs $3,000 to $4,000, a certificate on diversity, equity, inclusion in the workplace. And we thought success. If we have 200, 300 participants, we can make a difference. We now are nearing 130,000 participants, and it's so refreshing for us. I have a few more gray hairs there and sleepless nights because it's stressful catering to all these wonderful participants, but in a very complex topic. But it is just we believe it is the right thing to help companies and individuals through this journey. You said you're also very passionate about diversity, equity, and inclusion, and especially in your industry where it's a fact, the numbers speak to themselves. It's a male dominated, especially at the C-suite, if you want. So let's start by how did you break the glass ceiling? You have this. I know it's not a myth, and again, we look at the numbers, not just in your industry, in every single industry. You look at the C-suite. You look at the board. We're still not where we should be in terms of gender representations and many other underrepresented groups, from sexual orientations to race to age to religion to many other aspects. So let's talk a little bit about you and how did you position yourself to break that? Did you see that glass ceiling?
Well, I'm very privileged to work for a very large company whose CEO and president is a woman, Lynn Good. So at the very head of the table, we have a female leader who's done extraordinary work. My predecessor, who has left the company for another opportunity, Catherine Stempian. So when I looked at my immediate leadership and a chain of command, it was more women than men.
That's great.
So, I really have seen opportunities here. I've been given opportunities by both male and female leaders over the years. And I think that regardless of whether you are male or female or at what your background is, I think, again, excelling at the job that you are in, I think building that reputation that you're collaborative and that you are willing to learn, you're willing to even make mistakes so that you can learn from those, owning those mistakes, moving on and perfecting your craft, whatever it is. And that's regardless of whether it is a administrative assistant or a manager that is leading a lighting group. Regardless of what the job is that you're doing that. And I think that you'll find advocates for yourself along the way because they see the talent that someone can bring. And, after 34 years, a big part of what I think my job is to help groom that next generation of leaders internally. I think the same is true externally too, with community leaders. I think that if any one of us are in a position that we can help grow new people in the company, so that because somebody's going to have to replace me one day, and we want to make sure that we've got a real strong bench strength to do that.
This is great, Melissa, and I'm so happy to see that Duke Energy is really serving as a great model to give a chance to underrepresented groups. What kind of advice, again, going back to the facts, and even in, not just diversity, equity, and inclusion in the workplace is not just the right thing to do for obvious reasons, but it makes business sense, right? Research
Absolutely.
after research shows that companies with better diversity, equity, inclusion effort, they have a larger market share, better customers' retentions, more innovative, more performant, better actually employee satisfaction and retentions. So what kind of advice you give to all organizations, public, private, big, small, so that they really pay attention to underrepresented groups? And we really, when we look at underrepresented groups, we look at race, gender, non-binary, transgender, sexual orientation, disabled people, people from different religions, from different national origins. What kind of advice you give to these organizations, so that they really be like Duke Energy, where you guys are well advanced in that journey?
Well, I think that as you pointed out, there certainly is a lot of data and research there to demonstrate that diverse teams really result in the best outcomes, whatever business that you're in. So certainly depending on kind of that type of information. But I think, in addition to that, not looking at it as just kind of in a silo. And, here at Duke, we have lots of opportunity to continue to improve on all of those fronts. So I think a big part of it is the sheer willingness to have those discussions and ask employees for their input and their feedback, so that it's not just me or other leaders who are speculating or just giving kind of anecdotal, their own experience as kind of the foundation for what could become a policy. We need to hear from our employees, and we need to ask those questions, and we need to be open to taking that data and that feedback and actually taking action on it. And so I'm very proud of a lot of the things that the company has put into motion from a diversity and equity and inclusion standpoint. And this goes back, this has been part of our history over the last many years. But I sense there is really a renewed commitment to this. For our industry, safety, always number one priority. But truly, as we have evolved and become, I think, much more open to and understanding the positive influence of that diversity of our customers and our communities, and recognizing that it will only make us stronger, we have really raised our customer commitment and our commitment to diversity and inclusion. It's right there with safety. And I'll give you an example. We open up every single meeting that we have, whether it's a conference call with 4 people or whether it's a large seminar with 400. We have always started with a safety moment. Make sure your tripping hazards are removed. If you need to call 911, this is the address where you're located. I mean, we take it very seriously. We now open up, most of our meetings are safety, diversity, and customer, because they're all equally important and foundational to our success and the success of our communities. And that's the link I think I really want to make here, is that for Duke Energy Florida, we want our workforce to reflect the communities in which we live and that we serve. And so while we're focused internally, we need to focus externally. And a company like ours has the opportunity to participate in fantastic programs, and congratulations, like the one that you talked about. When I saw that it had surpassed the 100,000 mark, I'm like, oh, this is amazing.
It is.
I mean, one, it's the need, but the willingness, right, of people to want to participate in that. So I think connecting the internal with the external is just so important. We want to develop employees that want to serve on boards externally in the communities, whether it's a nonprofit board, whether it's a business board, and lend their talents and their experience. And I think that we can only do that if we help to build their confidence and trust that and how much we value diversity and inclusion, that they can apply that to their communities and the communities that we serve. So we're working really hard to make those connections. And I know that we've got Duke Energy employees who have signed up for your
Yes,
program as
yes,
well. Yep. So
yes.
we're thrilled about that as
Yeah,
well.
we'll take good care of them. And Melissa, they have to pass quizzes, 7 quizzes to
Uh
earn the
oh.
certificate. But so far, they're doing great. And I
Yeah.
see Christina Ashfau is in there. And thank you, Christina. It's an honor to have you in our
Yeah.
certificate.
It,
It really resonates so well with me, Melissa, when you said this is a great lesson for all of us. Make it priority. Make it priority. Make it in people's mind. Start every meeting with it. Remind people of the importance, like safety, which is number one priority. This is
mhm.
should be always in people's minds. So thank you for sharing with us that insights. It really is a good one.
Yeah,
Thank you.
it's very valuable, and it's interesting because it could be, a finance person who has got the diversity moment, and so
Yeah.
he or she is bringing that forward, and so it's been fascinating to watch what the topics are and the dialogue that it ends up generating. But when I talk about the tying the internal needs of the company and the priorities to our communities, I'll just share with you a program that's a result of that. We have, and we've seen this, whether it's a hurricane season or whether it is what happened in Texas. We, as an industry, need to have more line workers, qualified line workers. It's a fantastic career. It can lead to all kinds of pathways. It's well paying. It's craft and technical, so it may not be for people who are on the college track. But what we found is that we really wanted to help grow and open up this opportunity to minority citizens. And so we have partnered with St. Petersburg College and community partners like the Pinellas County Urban League and other companies like Powertown Line Construction to develop a line worker program at St. Petersburg College down at the Allstate building in South St. Petersburg. And really what we want to do is we want to bring in candidates that reflect our communities. And we want them to find a work home and a profession here at Duke that could lead to management, leadership. But these are the people that literally keep the lights on. And we want to make sure that we are providing those opportunities. And I think that is a very tangible piece of evidence as far as our commitment to growing the workforce and growing a diverse workforce as well.
Thank you, Melissa. And Laurie, probably it's time for us now to get some questions from the audience. Do you have any questions from Twitter? Yes, we do. All right. So I'm tired of hearing people classified as a woman CEO instead of simply as a CEO. How do you feel about that? That's a great question.
Yeah, I've certainly have heard that, and in a lot of ways. So Catherine Stempian, my predecessor, was our company's first female leader. So I feel like Catherine had the opportunity to field that quite often in her time with us, and of course she did it in a very thoughtful way. And if people want to say woman CEO or female CEO, I think it's what I bring to the table on behalf of the company. And if we can have that kind of conversation once or twice and we move on, then I think that qualifier ends up dropping off after time. But the other side of that, though, I think it does present me and other female leaders with the opportunity to stress that, yes, we still need to continue to bring more women and diverse candidates into leadership. So I think turning it around to take advantage of it to convey a message is an opportunity.
That's a great way of looking at it. Thank you. Another question. How can a person be active agent when they are not well connected? That's good.
So when I talk about being kind of an active agent in your own development, you don't have to necessarily be connected with someone that has a title. I think your network that you have now and building out from there and saying to somebody, hey, this is what I'm interested in. Do you know anyone that would be willing to talk to me? And just asking that question, hey, I want to learn. Who else can I talk to? And so I would say start with that network that you have. And if you are interested in reaching people outside of the company, especially in a place like Florida, what I have found is there are leaders in the community that really they love to lend their time and their expertise to people that are willing to take the chance to reach out. And I'll give you an example. There was a student at the University of South Florida, St. Petersburg, that was really interested in energy and policy. And she had asked one of the leaders there if maybe she could connect her with somebody at Duke Energy. At the time, I was the director of government community relations, and they came to me and I talked to her on the phone and we met. And then I introduced her to our energy policy person, and those two hit it off. They went to lunch. So it just takes kind of that ask. But what I have found is this larger community, I think they're very willing. People love to talk about what they do. And if somebody comes to them and says, I'm interested in learning more, I think quite often you'll find an advocate there. So don't discount the network that you have. Anyone that you interact with is linked to somebody else who can help you with the direction that you want to take. The other piece of the active agency part, though, is if you recognize there's an area that you need to develop, putting together kind of what you think that plan is. And I'm not talking about 5 pages, but just your bullet points on what you want to learn and what you want to achieve. And I think that demonstrates that you really are not waiting for someone else to determine your destiny or to recognize your talent, because there's a lot going on, right? And sometimes you have to kind of draw that attention to the value that you can bring beyond what you're already doing, regardless of what your job is.
Thank you, Melissa. And we know how important networking is. And at MUMA, actually, we have one class where students go through certifications from Sandler's training, one of the leaders in career skills and career readiness. And one of the important skills that they learn is networking, like you mentioned. All right, let's take one more question before I continue, because I have so many other great questions too. So this question says, many CEOs in these conversations talk about lessons learned from career missteps. What are some of the lessons you learn the hard way? That's when people ask me this question, Melissa, I say, how many hours do we have? Because
that's
my life
exactly
is
what I was thinking. I'm like,
but I know it's not the case for you. But this is still a great question.
We're going to need part 2 if I'm going to cover all of
anytime,
this.
Melissa, anytime.
Yeah. Listen, I learn something every day that from what I'll call a misstep, whether I didn't. And usually, like most of us, we're really hard on ourselves, right? And so every day I kind of reflect on kind of what I could have done differently, but I also have to kind of cut myself a little bit of grace in there as well. The one thing that I've tried to do when there have been missteps is, one, taking ownership of it immediately. Sometimes that's easier said than done. The other piece that I do, because I've talked about this team that I value so highly, if I will ask them for their feedback, their candid feedback, to say, what do you think? Should I have handled this differently? Should we have approached this differently? And I think if you have that trust built there, You want your team to be able to give that feedback, and it's not always the easiest thing to do, right? To give feedback to your boss. But I think that if you work on that relationship and know that it is a safe zone to be able to provide that information. But when someone gives feedback, your responsibility is to actually hear it and learn from it. And so quite often I do depend on others to give me that feedback, and I ask for it. And you know what they say, be careful what you ask for. So when you say, hey, tell me your thoughts on this, when they start listing out 7 or 8 bullet points, you just have to be prepared. But I think you have to be willing to hear it, and you have to be willing to act on it.
What a great advice. I always tell my friends and my team, feedback is a gift, right? So keep it coming. And sometimes it takes a lot of emotional intelligence to take the feedback, especially the ones that is quote unquote negative or does not necessarily coincide with our own of doing things. One of my favorite quotes, and this person said, I did not fail dozens and dozens of times. I just discovered different ways that this did not work. So I can. And what we really, I'm sure you know this, Melissa, at USF, we always say that failure is an option. Because that's how you learn. As long as you fail quickly and forward, if we're not failing, means we're probably not pushing that hard. But it's okay to fail. So that's a great lesson.
Absolutely. And I mean, failure is a very emotionally packed word. Yes. So I think even just saying falling short.
I like that.
How did I fall short? What else can I do differently? And often if I have felt that has happened, or someone has brought that to me, it's usually, if it has an impact on the team, then I work even harder to try to close that gap. I'm sure after this call, my corporate communications manager is going to give me some feedback on, how I can kind of word things a little differently. But I know it comes from a good place. It comes from a very good place. Yeah. And listen, there's so many things important to me, but one of the things I take probably the most seriously is that for this time we're spending together, I have the opportunity to represent 4,000 other Duke Energy employees, and it's important for me to get it right.
And you're getting it more than right, Melissa. I can assure the feedback has been good. But also, this is a great lesson for my team that are listening. They should stop telling me that I failed, and they should tell me that I fell short.
You fell short.
So never tell me, yes, you failed, Moaz. Tell me you fell short.
It's a softer, kinder, gentler way.
I like that. I like that. Again, I am so fascinated, Melissa, with this whole emphasis you have throughout your career about team and the importance of team. And we always say in our MBA classes, business classes, a leader is only as good as his or her team or their teams. How do you select your team? Sometimes we don't have that luxury, but in many instances we do. When turnover happens and people move on, we select great team members. What do you look for, Melissa? And this is really important because so many of our friends are listening and they want to be part of that team that is selected to work with Melissa or other leaders. So what do you look for, and what kind of advice you give to everyone listening?
So with I'll think back to my time with government and community relations, which I will always be a government community relations manager. That in my heart of hearts. And so when I think about that particular kind of that world and that role, or any role that has an external facing set of responsibilities with our customers and our communities, one of the things, of course, that I look for is that they put the customer first, and that the job is not about shining the spotlight on them, that they are focusing on the customer and they are advancing a balance between what is good for our customers and what's good for the company. And so when someone is only focused on how they can use this job to advance, that's a bit of a red flag for me. I need to know that when they come into this particular role, that they are here because they are going to give 1,000% to this job. And as I said, if they do that, and they're not looking at it as just a stepping stone, I think the stepping stone comes naturally because people see all the positive that comes out of the work that they are doing. So I think it's just that genuine commitment to the job that you're applying for. But I also think about the whole dynamic of the full team as well. How does that person fit into the existing team? That's an important element as well. I also, though, depend on others to help me make the decisions and the selections. So it's not just me. So if we've got a position open, I just had the opportunity to fill 2 vice presidents roles. And I asked colleagues if they would do the interviews for me. I had a very, great insight into all of the candidates. They were all extraordinary, but I needed to have that input from others who were coming at this job opportunity from a different angle. So it's diversity of thought, diversity of experience, and really depended on them to give me some great wisdom and insight as well. So I would say depend on others to help you make those selections as well. Because there could be a little bit of a blind spot, right, that I might have in that process. But building a team, and I know we're kind of getting close to the end, but I'm often fond of saying, especially during hurricane season, and if we are in a position where we are restoring service to our customers, and you are spending 18, sometimes 20 hours a day in a room with colleagues focused on restoring power, in some cases rebuilding in a complete set of infrastructure, and you walk out of that experience loving those people more than when you came in, that is sign that you've got a great team.
Thank you, Melissa. Let's forget a little bit about the power and the grids now and go a little bit to the family.
Okay.
And I know the family is always a big part of who we are. And
Yes.
I think someone said it so nicely. Our community is a better community because of people like you, Melissa, and juggling different things at the same time, but also taking care of the family. Also, if I may, and I know you don't mind, you're a cancer survivor, so you also had to deal with that also. So how do we reconcile all of that and try to balance all of that?
Well, balance is a tricky thing.
Yeah.
And I'm going to go back to, you have to be surrounded. I've been so fortunate to be surrounded by people who care, whether it was my Duke Energy family or whether it's my friends and family. And so my husband is a pancreatic cancer survivor going on 9 years, which of course is he's very rare. And I will tell you, I could not have made it through what I had to go through as a caretaker, at the same time as taking care of my mother too. And I swore they had a conspiracy to kill me slowly, the two of them together. And I could not have made it through without my friends and my colleagues. They brought me meals. They went grocery shopping. They picked up my youngest son, who at the time was only in 3rd grade. They did I still have the voicemail from our CEO at the time, Vinnie Dolan, when he found out, and just said, whatever you need, we're here for you. And so paying it forward, recognizing we never quite know what's happening in people's personal lives. And it's become even more difficult over the last year because we've been separated from each other, right? And so
Yeah.
it's taken even more of a concerted effort, I think, to make sure that we're staying connected to our employees and staying connected to friends. So you can look for signs that maybe they're having a struggle along the way. But I'm very fortunate to have a partner in life, my husband, who is completely supportive. And he likes to say he does half my job because he's a very friendly guy. And so wherever we're out, he's making more friends than I am, I will tell you. And that's been such a blessing as well. And, while as a mother, as spending a lot of time away from home, it really has given me the opportunity over the years with my youngest son, who's now 18, to recognize how important it is to be an involved citizen, participating on boards, serving, volunteering, and being part of kind of something that's bigger than yourself. And that I hopefully is a lesson that I've been able to give him through the work that I am honored to do here at Duke and the work that I do externally with the company in the broader community. So again, it goes back to a team. They call it a village, but definitely could not do anything of what I do without that circle of people.
Thank you, Melissa. Very inspiring. And at USF, we really testify to your amazing involvement in the community. And because of you, again, we are a better university and we are a better community. We have still a few minutes. So there's one question that I really want your insights on. And you alluded to many times, this horrible pandemic that, really changed our lives for more than a year now. As hopefully we're starting to see the light at the end of the tunnel, and I think and hope it's not an incoming train, what kind of advice or lessons learned you give to all leaders out there on how to slowly go back to whatever new norm we can have? How do you see that new transition now?
Yeah, it's an important part, right, of this phase that we're in with the pandemic. And from a Duke Energy perspective, I mean, proactively last March, we recognized that there was going to be a severe economic impact to our customers. And so we proactively took measures to ensure that we could help ease some of that pressure, including suspension of interruption for non-payment. We waived credit card fees, we waived late fees, and we also used our philanthropic opportunities to help support nonprofit agencies and groups that were helping customers to achieve a financial bridge between losing a job and then, of course, having to feed their children, put gas in their car, pay their power bill. We got very creative in looking for ways to connect with our customers, to encourage them to call us. And the Tampa Bay Rays, our partnership with the Rays, they went to the World Series. We entered into a program with them called Powering Through Together. And we said, we're going to give $1,000 to Tampa Bay 211 for every home run the Tampa Bay Rays hit. And we thought, let's kind of, maybe 50,000, right? 50 home runs. Well, of course, the Rays, being the phenomenal team that they are, they were upwards of 90. And then we took it into the playoffs, and we were able to donate $123,000 to Tampa Bay 211 to help our customers. And we continue to do that, providing very flexible, long-term deferred payment arrangements. That the key is we really ask our customers to call us. We will help connect them with CARES dollars, LIHEAP. We are doing everything we can, but we've got to hear from them so that we can help them with that. Internal to the company, again, staying connected with employees. And now we're looking at kind of what it means to return from remote work. And a lot of employees have expressed that they like the hybrid model. They like the opportunity to work at home. For those who have an hour commute each way, the quality of life that they have seen improve because they've been able to work from home. So we're going through a process now of what that will look like. And we'll continue to provide those resources to our employees as well. Proud to say that we did not have to furlough any of our employees through this entire process. So we are really trying to make sure that we show a tremendous amount of empathy to our customers and to our employees.
Melissa, I don't know where the hour went. We're really hitting the end here, and I cannot tell you how much I personally enjoyed this conversation. And I know from the feedback we're getting through the chat and through Twitters that everyone really enjoyed this conversation, enjoyed getting to know you, Melissa, but also learning from you. Thank you for opening up. Thank you for sharing with us your amazing background and lessons learned and advice and insights. And again, I go back to something one of our participants said. This community is a better community because of you, Melissa. So from all of us at USF, at the MUMA College of Business, and at the Tampa Bay community at large, thank you so much for being with us today. And for all our participants, thank you for joining us. I hope you enjoyed this as much as I have. And stay tuned for our next conversation with CEO coming to your email very soon. So long, everybody, and have a wonderful afternoon. Thanks again, Melissa.
Thank you.
Thank you.